Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andressa.
So in today's episode, ladies, we have Jana Uselton. She is a 20-year veteran in real estate investing, so experienced in the design area, and especially with short-term rentals, which is what we focus our energies on today's episode. You're going to get so much out of this episode from the perspective of where to put your money and how to best set yourself up for the most success when you are designing your short-term rental. She goes through a really specific strategy for you to use on your short-term rentals. And she actually says, what are your musts? What are your wants? What are your desires? And then she gives great examples around those three. And she gives such a great philosophy so that your guests, right, don't focus on the little things, but actually focus on the experience they're having. And her philosophy around that and her strategies around that are absolutely amazing.
And we have interviewed people before about short-term rentals, as you guys can tell, but this is different. We're focusing on return on your investment. And the golden nuggets that she's going to share with you guys now, you guys can implement right away and really increase your return. This is a must watch.
Welcome back, ladies. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Investor Show, where our mission is to empower women to live a financially free and balanced life. That is what runs through our veins, right, Andressa, with everything that we're up to in our community and all the things we have going on.
The list goes on and on.
The list goes on and on. But
I know you guys don't have the time, so let's get into it.
We're so excited to have you, Jana Uselton, on our show today. Excited to jump into your story and talking about design and short-term rentals and how to do that in a way that is affordable. We get a lot of profit. So excited to jump into all that because I think that's a big topic for a lot of investors and women who are investing in that niche. So thanks again for being here today.
Absolutely. I think this is a way to build multiple streams of income and create a legacy play. So hopefully we have some great nuggets for people today.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. So we always like to get connected to all of you, and we appreciate you so much being on this journey with us. We say it's a journey. We've been podcasting for 4 years now and just about a year and a half published by Bigger Pockets. So, it's been a journey, and we like to share nuggets along our journey too, before we jump into our guests, and just something that you can take in quickly to your life and apply. So what I wanted to share today, Andressa, is I'm on the docket here. I always have things to share, but I was going to share one thing, and actually I'm going to change that because just this morning, yeah, right. It's like hot off the press, but just this morning, I'm getting ready to go on a business trip. We have an EXP presentation we're doing tomorrow in Florida, and then Friday I'm keynoting for a big conference and just preparing for that mentally. Then my husband says to me, and then we're going to Disney for a few days with my kids, and they're meeting me and my husband. Well, obviously they're with my husband. They're not going to travel by themselves. So anyway, he's like, "Can you please help me as much as you can prep here?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I'm like, "What does that look like?" And he just listed 7 things that he really,
I am imagining this conversation.
Pretty much he should have just said everything. Really, he should have just said, "Can you do everything?" It would have been better than, "Can you help me prep some things?" So even this morning, I was running around. I was like, "Oh my God, I forgot activities." So they're not just full on screen time on the airplane because they're traveling with Matt. And I was just running around with a chicken without my head this morning. I get to Wawa because, of course, I'm like, I got to get some coffee in before we record and everything. And I get up to the counter and my 2 coffees spill over onto the woman right behind me, like literally the woman that's working at Wawa this morning.
All right.
She moved back quickly enough that literally the coffee, the hot, you know how hot Wawa coffee is. I don't know if anyone listening doesn't know Wawa, but it's a little convenience store.
Welcome to New Jersey, people.
Well, yeah, Jersey girls and us Northeast people know what we're talking about. And I felt so bad. She moved back quickly enough, but it went everywhere. So she didn't get burned. So I felt good about that. But I felt really bad about what happened. And she's like, "No worries. It's this the longest line. We're all cleaning up all the coffee. Everyone's kind of huffing and puffing, in these kind of places. People are ready to go to work." I'm looking around. I feel so bad. She's like, "No, it's okay. You don't know how many times this happens." I'm like, I felt so bad. I got in the car. And how many times do these things happen to us? And I'm like, there's a lesson here for me. I'm like, here I am, so busy, so getting ready to go on this trip. And I'm doing multiple things when I'm there and I'm rushing. And if I don't like take this as a sign to slow down, something bigger is going to happen. And so I've been really mindful in my own life of like these little things. Yeah, it was an accident. Yeah, the coffee literally spilled over, right? But it's my way of being this morning. I was rushing. I was in like crazy Liz mode. And so I just say that because these moments in our life when things like don't go our way in our business and our personal life, they present us with an opportunity to be a lesson, because the universe will, if you don't take that lesson, the universe will give you a bigger one. Now I didn't hurt anyone. She didn't get burned. It was a little inconvenient for the people in the line and it was a little bit of a mess, but it's a small one, right? Versus an accident or something bigger that can happen. And I just say that because I didn't always do that. I didn't always take these little lessons as a lesson or a gift. And I just stopped and I'm like, because I'm being more mindful in my life. And I'm like, that was a lesson for me. Slow down, Liz. As you go on this trip, slow down. And I did. And I parked and I pulled out nice and quietly, got home and just took a breath. So I say that because these moments are lessons and we have to take them, or the universe will give us bigger ones.
I agree with you. And sometimes when something happens and then we are like 5 minutes behind and we don't know why. I don't know where I was driving with my mom, that literally if we were 2 minutes in front of us, we'll probably get into a major accident. But before we were behind, we were able to slow down and do not get into the mix. And I was running a couple of minutes late. We don't know why those things are happening, but as you were saying, those are like signs. So I heard this another day, and I want to share with everybody exactly what you were saying. Instead of being pissed off or resisting to what is happening, I think it's lovely to see, Liz, that you embrace it. Like, all right, and let it pass it through. Right? I think that we have to have more grace with ourselves, as you had with you, and move along. Now we need to get into Matt's to-do list.
Exactly. Everything's good to go.
Which has one item, everything.
Please don't forget our children. Without further ado, though, Jana, thanks so much for being on our show. We always like to kind of kick things off here with this question. What lesson has been the hardest for you to learn and has taken you the longest to learn?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. And it definitely, it takes a little bit to look back and see, we're 20 years in business. And I think the hardest lesson that I have come across, as well as we're helping other people realize, is that you don't have to do everything. Team, it's always the who, not the what. And so understanding that we can do more with more people, with more resources. So stepping back, I think about the plan, do, measure, improve. And so I've got to have a plan. I have to measure that progress, and then we improve it. But this continuous improvement can't necessarily happen with us by ourselves. We literally have to add to the team and grow and continue to step up and step out of our projects.
I love that, because majority of the women that are listening to us, they are successful in their business. That being said, there is a cross line, right, where they are either burning out because they're doing everything by themselves, and they did it because they were capable of doing it. However, there is this like light bulb that is happening if they want to continue growing their business, but most importantly, live life on their own terms and not sacrificing it. Then there are a couple of changes, mindset changes, that I'm learning a lot from past generations that need to come down. And I would love to continue talking about this. Today, we're going to talk more specifically about short-term rentals. And I think it's a hot topic. It's not going to slow down. I think that's where we're all going at some point as users or as investors, one way or another. And I think that I was having this conversation with another investor, and I was like, we need we need more resources to run our numbers, to run our comps. Midterm rental, where do you go? Right? Where do you go to get the client? Where do you go to see if your numbers are correct? So let's start breaking down short-term rental by itself, in terms of the design. I don't think, and Jana, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think a lot of people put too much attention into the design. As investors, we get the numbers, we get the property, and then we kind of like slap a couple of things there as if it's enough. So can we talk about the impact of having an intentional design versus just furnishing the property?
Absolutely. This is such a great arena because you're right. There, I think we see the money, we see the opportunity. Maybe we have stayed in a short-term rental, that whether it's an Airbnb, a Verbo, there's so many. They come in all shapes and sizes and with different platforms. And whatever that is the idea comes, well, I'm in real estate. Why don't I have a property, that can earn money? And at the end of the day, it is all about intentionality. And so when we take a property or we find and we locate, and there's a lot that goes into that as well, but we have to be on purpose. We have to be clear on our intentions. And because otherwise, if there's no plan, right? If there's no plan, who is my audience and what are the opportunities that this property presents where I can maximize the ROI? It is all about intentionality. And sometimes, again, the biggest lesson is we don't have to do it all ourselves. We can DIY this. And I think that's what you're seeing a lot of, and we experience a lot of, is let's just throw some extra stuff that I'm not using. Let's get on Facebook Marketplace, get some paint on the wall, and then let's just put this on the platforms. But if we're not super intentional and we don't have a plan, then all of a sudden we're seeing but many people exit out of this. Oh, that didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. Well, it's because they were not intentional about seeing this as a business. So I think that's the biggest thing. We can talk about the design and the concepts that need to go in, but it's first the plan and being intentional about the experience.
Well, I love that because the business plan, just to segue into another thought, is every real estate asset class, right? If you're investing in multifamily, you're investing in, self-storage, you're investing in raw land, or even a single family home rental, right? Like literally single family home rental, that's a long-term rental and it's one unit, if you will. You need to have a business plan.
Yes.
And I think that people just do not think about that. You get that we started to get that when we started to scale into larger multifamily, because you need a business plan because of the amount of units, right? In terms of what you're doing, year 1, year 2, year 3, capital expenditures. There's a lot of moving parts when you have 200 units. God, I wish I knew the importance of a business plan when we were renovating a single family home, even if it's basic, right? Obviously, it's more basic than a 200 unit. So I love that you said that. I just want to make a point to that. Whatever asset class the ladies are involved in or transitioning to, the power of that plan is so important. It gets just ignored most of the time. But my question, going back to intentionality and design, I am like literally, I don't think design, having an eye for things is like my number one quality in my life, right? If someone walked through my house, a little bit of a hodgepodge, people are like, oh, I was talking to Jess one day. She's like, what design are you going for your basement? I'm like, I'm not really too sure what you mean by that. She's like, and then she started giving me some examples. And like, if you were doing this, then you would get this. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Like I'm like a moron when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'm hearing you talk, right? And I'm almost envisioning, so your audience, I get that. You want to know your customer. But for people that are not design oriented, people who just quite honestly don't really care, about I understand the importance of linens. I understand that because I want nice linens if I'm staying somewhere. But I'm not someone who thinks that way. So how does, someone listening, especially the long-term rental investors, right? Where you're not thinking that way. You're not even programmed to think that way. How do you start to kind of assess where your limitations are, who you need to hire, what's important, what's not, what audience needs a certain design. So walk us through there has to be a process, because that's how my mind thinks, almost like a menu. If it's this audience, it needs this caliber of luxury. If it's this, and I work well with that. But just like the general design conversation is just big to me and big to a lot of people, and they just don't want to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I love analogies. I love stories, and being able to really hit a point home. And it's almost, I've got 2 points here. One is, we all brush our teeth, right? We brush our teeth. We take care of our teeth, but we're not the dentist. We're not going to do dental work on ourselves. And so that is the concept. I think a lot of people think design is something that, I can DIY this. But at the end of the day, have you been trained? Do you understand space planning? Do you understand balance and scale and harmony and all of those concepts that really is all about marketing a property? That is where, when a space feels well and all the senses are out, and we know people are going to look at this property and purchase nights online and capturing the moments, that's what it does. It's very intentional. Back to the key point. We can live in our homes, we can brush our teeth, we can do all that. But when it comes to on purpose and it comes to dollars and it comes to making sure that we're specialized knowledge, then it's time to hire the designer. It's time to hire the staging company that specializes in short-term rental setup. And maybe they can do a little bit of it done with you. If that is something you want to learn, come alongside them, learn the concepts, but still professional training. We tend to overlook and it is there. It is there. We're 20 years in this business, over 8,000 properties. We're in over 700 doors, multifamily. Like this is all about knowing what our superpower is. And when it comes to now, even thinking about short-term rental in multifamily on the ownership side, like that, there is so much opportunity in this market, big, small, it doesn't matter, but team with the experts if you want to maximize your ROI. And they're going to know, okay, this is a Class A unit. Well, just like Marriott, all of the hotel brands, you can stay at levels of Marriott. That's my other analogy, right? You can go very bare budget, basic on one of their hotel concepts, all the way to that 5-star luxury feel. So where's the location? Why are people coming to the area? And what class is that? Even I think about this at residential level. Is this a Class A property, right? It's going to demand luxury. And that way we're going to get somewhere around $1,000 a night versus $119 a night on a 1-bedroom in a Class B, multifamily. So there are ways that we can be so intentional about the property itself and how we are I like to say dressing the property for that ideal buyer for the night, for the week. And then they're going to expect, just like that hotel, they're going to expect that hotel experience.
I'd love to hear an example of that. So, in working with your own, properties or working with various properties, obviously you have a lot of experience. Is there ever a scenario that someone says, this is the type of customer I'm looking for. This is the type of, here's what I'm thinking. And you're like, that's not a good idea because of the space or what have you. And then what were the recommendations? I'm curious to what's a kind of a case study, a recent case study of real life when that happened, when maybe a investor thought one thing and you said, basis of the property and the customer, customer base, if you will, or audience, we're going to shift that, and that can make you X dollars. I'm curious to get into the nitty gritty of how that works with where you've seen it.
Yes. And our team is approached weekly by, set up projects. And we always ask a couple of questions. One is, where's the property located? We're going to look at that address. We're going to put it in a data rabu. We're going to put it, see what else is in the area that is performing. We're also going to ask about the specs of the property. What do you love about this property? Why would someone want to stay here? We know that a 3-2, we're going to sleep a good 8 to 10 people. So now that allows us to know how to set up up a dining space versus the living space? How, are people going to be comfortable in the heart of the home? Is this open concept? When was the year built? We're going to ask all of these questions just like a doctor would before he does surgery, right? We're going to say, what is the experience that we're going for? Once we have the specs and the scope and the size of the project, then we're going to know, hey, this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. You can't sleep 12, right? Because yes, you might want to maximize your dollar per night or your ADR, but at the end of the day, is it going to fit? Is someone going to have a great experience? And we've got a lakefront property that's a 2,200 square feet. We're going to max that out at 8 people because we know the heart of the home is they're going to have a great experience. If we try to pack 12 in, no, it's not going to work. And so we're really looking at the property itself. Where is it located? Who's that ideal client? And we start with the basics, and then we can build up. We can always lux out a property, but we've got to know, what is the sofa going to be? Do we need it to sleep someone? And then that allows us our core furniture pieces, positioning, selections, and then it's like a cake. You ice it, you put the cherries on top, and then you're ready to go.
Yeah, I took my son to the beach this past summer, and we rented an Airbnb. It was a 3-2 property, very close to the beach. And we were spending an entire week there. And one thing that they did a lot of things right. Just acknowledging that the organization and the making things easier, making things available for us. One thing that I recommended privately to them is to reconsider the layout of the kitchen, because exactly as you're saying, right? If we have 3 bedrooms, you can feed 8 people over there. And they did have a long table and couches and different areas where people could sit. However, in the kitchen, instead of creating more cabinet space, they took 2 cabinets out and created a small island, which we had 0 cabinets to put any types of snacks or anything that we brought at the local market. So all the food we had to put on top of the counter. So those 2 seats over there were not needed. They were not needed at all, because there's an outside sunroom, plenty of space for people to seat. So when you are evaluating, as you were saying, where people are going to hang out, pretend you're them, like where they're going to hang out. And one thing that you mentioned about the difference between staging or just, going to a Facebook market and grabbing a couple of things is the perception of value, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we're looking for on that picture. Like, what is the perception of value? What are the senses that you're triggering on the people? Even like in my primary house, when I was going to do the walkthrough with the appraiser, and I did bake freaking cookies. No, I did not made it from scratch. I just bought it and my mom baked it. But I wanted him to smell. I wanted him to have a warm place. I had candles. I had everything freaking staged in my own house because I want his perception of it to be the highest possible. So when we are taking even the pictures, right? Some people skip the professional photographer and take pictures of the property. I can't emphasize the importance of lighting and then perception, right? So let's get to your like must-do list. Where would you put your money? Meaning, what are the items where you say, listen, don't budget here? And then other items are like, don't care if you get that from whatever you want to get. Sure. But those are the must. What would you say, Jana?
Absolutely. And it will go back to, every property is different. And so how do we make that a model property? We love to say we model properties for profit. So where are our profit centers in this property? But in general, you want to think about the musts, the wants, and the desires. So let's categorize the must, right? Most properties, it's the 80-20 rule. They're going to have the must. Okay, we need a coffee station. And by the way, let's make sure we have filters. Let's make sure, we have the pods. We have something where it's a functioning. We would say in so many short-term rentals, and they're missing, like you're saying, it doesn't make sense. So you have to stay in the property after you get it live or before live so that this is a good, and then go audit that property and make sure you're doing quality control checks. So we've got to have the must of the coffee stations. We have to have the must when it comes to the core furniture. We have to have the must is the bed, right? It is the bed that's going to, the linens, the towels, the basics that they need. My husband was just in Atlanta for a conference. They rented out a short-term rental. No shampoo or conditioner, nothing. Like that is a must these days. And the host was like, well, we didn't list it, but you're just going to expect the hairdryer. You're going to expect the things that you would find in a hotel. Go to a hotel and you're going to see the must. You're also going to go to the next level, which is the wants. Well, what do people want when they come to a property? Well, they're going to want to know about the area. So can you leave something, get them information about the area? They're going to want good internet, right? They want a workspace these days. You might even have 2 workspaces in certain properties. That's what we've gone to in our personal short-term rentals, is making sure there's 2 work zones if it's more than a one, right? They want a balcony. They want a patio experience. Now you go to the desires. The desires are the surprise and delights. We have not done this yet, but a waffle station, like, oh my gosh, what's going to be an oh my gosh? Can you believe they have this? They leave umbrellas for us, right? I can't, you can only imagine, the desire. We have a whole list of desires that are the surprise and the cookies or the gift basket that is right there to welcome them when they get there. Those are the things. We definitely leave water bottles as well. That's just kind of that surprise and delight. So you can go on and on with the listens. And many times this is so important. If something goes wrong, it's not an if, but a when. Something will go wrong, right? There will be a bug. They'll find a hair, no matter how well your cleaners are. They will overlook some of those things that would make someone give you a bad review. They will overlook those, the more desires and wants you have in the property. So if you want to get the extra bonus and brownie points, give a surprise and delight based on your avatar. Why are they coming? We're looking at 42 doors, close to the Cowboys Stadium, walking distance. Well, you can bet we're going to do some surprise and delights in those units as owners. And so this is the thing that you can do, whether it's a single family, small startup, then also you want to make sure that they have the best experience, just like they would in a 5-star luxury retreat. Enough towels, enough washcloths, enough linens, because a short-term rental is anything up to 30 days. Well, if you get someone that's staying 2 weeks, or the traveling nurses, we have 2 properties right now that have people in there for over 60 days. And so we can't just leave them, one set of sheets, or we've got to go back and make sure that stay is perfect for them for the length they're staying as well.
I want to make a quick point to your husband going to an Airbnb and didn't have shampoo. Right. And then he contacted the host, and the host said, well, it didn't list it. This is a high level hospitality. Right. If you get the privilege to get feedback from your guest during their stay, is the best scenario. Yes. Possible. And your answer should be, it will be there in X amount of time. I apologize for that, for the inconvenience. Because the worst thing that you want, it's somebody that comes to your property, don't tell you what happened, and when they're going to tell? At the review. when they are reviewing and leaving you that lovely message, and you're like, why you didn't tell me that?
Right. And this was a 3-night stay for over $1,000. You're going to expect shampoo and conditioner. Get Amazon to drop ship it if you need to, right?
You do whatever it takes. You go to, nowadays, there's no excuse for that.
Right.
You do whatever it takes. If you need to deliver it, unless you're out of state, that's what you gotta do. You gotta do it quick, and let's say add something else to it.
That's right.
So they feel that they got it. But I just want to highlight that when you get this, instead of feeling defensive or proving them, well, that's not what I listed. That's proving them wrong. And then it's a battle of like, who is right, who is wrong. That's not the business. That is not the business. You want them to tell you when there's something wrong, or when something is missing there. When you see people doing DIY, what are the biggest mistakes that you have seen?
I think it's treating it almost looks like the hostel, right? They just address the must. They literally, it's like, we have a sofa, we have like 3 dishes.
That's totally what I would do. That's totally what I would do.
It's like, well, it's like the dorm experience, right? We definitely.
Oh, you just use your towel. I'm sorry. Yeah,
exactly.
Your hair was long. Well, cut it.
That's what we see the most. And we also see a challenge. I think people do start off, they're excited. They're like, oh, I get a new project. And many people will do it right. But what happens is they lose interest. And now that property has been on the market for 1 year, maybe it's going on 2 years, and it just feels drab. It's dreary. Nothing has been changed out. We say people need to do that quality control inspection every couple of months. Someone else needs to walk through and, jump on the bed and make sure that it's not, everything is durable. Everything is good. We do not love to think about our cleaners as cleaners. We say these are reset specialists, literally reset specialists. Cleaning is the fundamental. They're making sure no one left anything. They're making sure nothing is broken, and they're feeding back to that owner operator of any changes. And that's one of the mistakes we see is they may start off really good, but then they kind of fizzle out. And these properties, turn after turn, just are barely surviving. And you'll start seeing the reviews go downhill fast. We also see that they don't put enough mirrors in properties. This is something that's super practical. People love to look at themselves, which, it's so where's the entry? Maybe a mirror there. Maybe there's always a mirror in the bedroom. And we like to say full length. Where's the full length mirror that someone can check out before they walk out the door? That my shirt is tucked in and everything's good. But also maybe a mirror over a dresser or a vanity area in the bedroom, because someone might be in the bathroom getting ready while someone else needs to dry their hair, put the makeup on. So we're always making sure there are zones in the property as multiple people are using bathrooms and working and all of those things. So we love to say mirrors also help make a space look large. They reflect maybe a great light and a good view. So you don't have to go crazy on mirrors, but we will definitely put on a 3-2, we're going to put 5 or 6 mirrors in the property, 1 in every bedroom, and then in an entry, a dining, and just start reflecting some light. So that's just a good practical tip. Mirrors are your friend.
I love that. You're so true though. I was staying in an Airbnb once, and I'm like, I'm not even that vain, but I just want to see how my jeans looked at,
Right.
Well, I'm like, where's the freaking mirror? So you're absolutely right. I'm curious though to get your perspective on the market shifting, right? The market is, interest rates are going up. And people having to be, whether this is their 4th or 5th short-term rental property, right? They maybe utilize the financing strategy where you can, it's your second home. It's the second property you buy. So I'm curious how that's all impacting, on your side of people buying, short-term rentals and what they're shifting to account for interest rates going up and mitigating that. I know how that is in the multifamily space, right? Because the rents are increasing. So interest rates, it's hedging, right? Rents increasing. Are you seeing the same thing on your, I'm curious to get your insight into that, because it is as an investor, right? You're trying to hedge. How can I keep my profit line the same or better, even if interest rates continue to go up?
Yeah,
I'm curious to hear your insight on that.
If you are the owner, right, of the asset, then of course everything should be on sale right now. And we're seeing that over and over again, whether it's in multi-family purchase versus single family. You just have to make sure that the numbers still pan out. And is there an opportunity for some creative financing and partnering with and co-hosting with people to kind of get through this season? If you already own the asset, awesome. You've just got to ask yourself, what is the easiest, best way? What are regulations? Do I have HOA? What are the things that we're going to come up against? And what are things that are changing? Making sure you understand when things do change. This happened to us here locally in one of our cities, that we get the notice in the door. We know you have a short-term rental. Here goes your hotel tax, right? So you have to know the rules and regulations. Then you have to know what the market is doing and what are all of our options. Is this a co-host opportunity? Maybe this is a partnership. Can you go in with someone on a property? Yes, your financing may be different. Your down may be different, but we want to just be so legit on this. We know market will shift. We know market trends within our 20 years of in this market of real estate, and so. Always yesterday was the time to buy. Always yesterday was the time to get in. And that's going to be the same true for today. You just have to think differently. So on a rental side, really doesn't change much. You may go in and do the arbitrage, which means we're renting to rent, right? We are subletting, and so if you're going to take a bunch of doors at one time, then you may ask for a couple of months free. You may even go in and pay 15% more for that asset on a rental side, just because you're going to this is a great market and it's worth it. And now the owners are participating with a great tenant that actually could be paying more. The market shifts. The way we did short-term rental even 6 months ago is not how we're doing. We're literally co-hosting, partnering, and we are sharing in some profits with some of the owners where we're not owners. So many options here. Just be upfront. Talk about this. May be a 2 or 3 meeting process if you're not the owner, or if this is a syndication. Hey, what are our options as owners to go in and set some of these units aside? And let's, it's a 1-to-3 ratio. 1 unit should outperform 3 units. I mean, that is what we are seeing. It's unbelievable. And so I'm excited more than ever. I know interest rates are up, but that just means real estate should be on sale.
Let me ask you a follow-up question regarding the hotel tax, because it's scaring a lot of people. And I'm not sure if it is, everything that it's new or shifting. Airbnb at the beginning was scary to a lot of people, no longer the same situation, but a couple of states, including PA, they are changing the regulations. And I think the same thing is happening around the country at one time or another. How do you view the hotel tax, and what are the adjustments that you have made when running your numbers?
For us, it does. It can eat into your profit if you're keeping your average daily rates the same. You're not really upping. But if a hotel tax is, 7, 9, 10, whatever the percent is, 14%, then what do we do as owners of multifamily? We raise the rents when our costs, then it is a raising of the rents. And when that only compounds into short-term rental whenever we're asking, $389 a night on an asset. Now we might need to be at $429. So we're going to eat up that cost within our our charges to possible clients. But for us, it has not stopped us. It's just a way, but we're going to also say, how do we next level this experience? We're not just going to go in and raise rents, but what are rates? We're going to say, what can we do to value add to this asset and give a different experience? And we know as short-term rental operators that if the asset is fully booked out, maybe it's a 95% occupancy, 98, then that is an opportunity to raise on the weekends, go 20% higher on the weekends. So you can assume and absorb that cost and maybe find some ways to get that back, but it should never deter anyone because we model our properties and we literally market them as professionally designed short-term rentals. That's another thing, by the way, too, that you can do when you hire out. You market it that it's a professionally designed, property. And they're like, "Ooh, okay. This is a custom fit here for me. And I'm willing to pay an extra 40, 50% because that's what ours perform at is we want to try to double what a comp would be. And how we do that is we create such an experience when they get in. It looks like a model home. That's what we want. We're going to make sure that we brand it and that we absorb any extra costs that we're coming against.
In terms of pricing it out, when you say increase the price during the weekend for you is Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Is it Friday and Saturday? Is it Saturday and Sunday? What is weekend for you? And how do you adjust your pricing per season?
Yeah, so it is typically a Friday, Saturday. It would be considered the weekend. However, you may have a 20, 40% raise on those nights. And then maybe that Sunday is a half the raise because people will stay over on Sunday. So Sunday even has an opportunity to raise rates a little bit. But these pricing, there's so many pricing tools out there and you can look them up. They come up all the time. However, we also want to know what the seasonality, right? If we're by the Cowboy Stadium, when are the games? When are special events coming? Holidays, right? You got to know, and those pricing tools will sometimes catch those things, but you also have to have the audible. You have to have the manual raise on that. And there are also property management companies or hospitality management companies, and that is their job locally to know when events are coming and when they can raise those rates.
Absolutely. And it's the realtor's job. I know I was talking to a realtor in Florida and project we're working on, and he was just listing out this is by week what's happening, like to the T, because he just knows that community so well. So you got to tap into the local knowledge. Yes. And these tools are great, right? But you have to also hedge with what really is happening when you're not from the area and what's conservative, what's not. I love that. I think I really want to just make a note before we have you introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. Before you share where the ladies can connect with you further, I really want to talk about I want to make a pin in this about the surprise and delight, because I think what you're saying is so applicable to everything we do as investors and as business women. And it's even in relationships. In other words, it's like it's what Andressa, you and I always talk about, right? That emotional bank account. When you're making deposits in your property, the surprise and delight, these extra things that you're really thinking about your customer and that family that you're catering to, they're going to overlook when there's things that aren't that great. Right. It's the same thing in a relationship, yes. Or same thing in every area of our life. When you make the deposits and you do some of those, pieces of the surprise and delight, people aren't going to be so mad at you or annoyed at you if you get a little short with them because you have deposits. So I love that as a concept. Obviously, for short-term rentals, it's a very applicable one. It's applicable in every asset class. And quite honestly, it's applicable in our lives. Where can you do a little more surprise and delight? And it's not every day, it's not every moment of the day, but people and customers and people that you're serving will overlook the little things when you have those things. When they're in negative mode and there's nothing, right? That one hair, people will focus on because there's nothing else going on positive. So I love that as a concept. And I just wanted to make relevance of that every area of our life.
Yes, for sure.
Jana, where can the ladies listening learn more about you and follow you along your journey?
Well, I unfortunately have a difficult last name, Uselton, Uselton. No one can pronounce it, right? No one can pronounce it. And it's one of those things. We have JanaUselton.com, but Model My Home is super easy to remember and get in touch with us. And then our training company is it's HSRA, the Home Staging and ReDesign Alliance.
Jana, what is the best website where people can find you?
Modelmyhome.com is super easy. Modelmyhome.com.
Perfect. All this information you guys can find on our show notes. Now we're going to transition to our fabulous 3 questions. The first one is, what's the most transformational book you ever read?
Ultimate Sales Machine, Chet Holmes. That really helped ignite me getting out of my business. And I absolutely love it. It's a foundational book.
Awesome. The second question is, what's the most powerful routine that you do to create a financially free and balanced life?
It's planning my week. I have to plan my week, and I usually do that on Sundays, and I get super focused and time block my time.
The last question is, which woman, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
Well, Sharon Lechter will be at our event in 2 weeks as our keynote. I absolutely love Sharon Lechter, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich for Women. So Sharon Lechter has my vote.
Jana, thank you so much for being on today. Appreciate your time and all your nuggets of wisdom. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.